A sandaled foot presses down, then sinks. A faint click. The dust shudders. Beneath the stone floor, something ancient awakens. A gust of foul air escapes as hidden teeth snap upward from the darkness. Not a soul hears the scream. Just another looter, erased from history. But that was only the beginning. The chamber that breathed. In the Valley of the Kings, a burial chamber once greeted its intruders with silence. The sarcophagus lay undisturbed. But the air moved. Not from wind, from breath. Moments later, 2 grave robbers were found outside the tomb, alive but choking, eyes bulging, tongues blackened. They hadn't stolen gold, only the air. Modern archaeologists would later suspect a trap, mildew and deadly mold, deliberately sealed into the porous limestone. Ancient embalmers knew the desert preserved the dead, but they also knew a sealed tomb could rot the living. The ancients believed that breath carried the soul, but what happens when you inhale the breath of a long-dead king? The floor that vanished. In a royal tomb near Saqqara, the corridor looked stable, smooth-cut limestone, measured, symmetrical. But step too far left, and the stone gave way. One misstep, and a person would fall not into a pit, but into a smooth-walled shaft. No footholds, no rope, no exit. These weren't random cave-ins. The stone was deliberately thinned beneath key pressure points, sometimes even greased with oil or resin so no grip could be found. And at the bottom, not always spikes. Sometimes nothing at all. Just a suffocating silence in a shaft no wider than your shoulders. Death by fear, starvation, or madness. But this was only one form of silence the ancients engineered. The voice of the dead. In certain Theban tombs, narrow corridors were carved to create natural echo chambers. When someone spoke, or even breathed heavily, the sound bounced back, distorted, magnified. A whisper came back as a growl, a shout returned as a scream. These weren't architectural mistakes, they were sound traps. Designed to disorient, to make the tomb feel alive. One 19th century explorer wrote in his journal, "The corridor called out my name, but no man was behind me." Could a man be driven to madness by the voice of stones? The dagger in the dark. In the ruins of a Lycian tomb on the Anatolian coast, archaeologists uncovered a slot in the wall, just wide enough for a thin, rusted blade. It pointed toward the entry path, at chest height. Too deliberate to be coincidence. Some theorized it was part of a mechanical defense. Nearby, wooden remnants suggested a weight-based trigger, something a tomb robber might trip while stepping into shadow. The knife wouldn't be visible in time. It would emerge from the side, like a serpent from the rocks. And worse still, the blade bore traces of verdigris and black pitch, suggesting poison. But the knife wasn't the trap, it was the lesson. In the ancient world, death never came from the front. The curse written in blood. In a tomb at Abydos, Egypt, a clay tablet was found smeared with red pigment. Initially believed to be ochre, later analysis revealed it was laced with human blood. The inscription read, "He who disturbs this rest shall awaken what feeds beneath." Many dismissed it as ritual symbolism, but the phrasing is peculiar. Feeds beneath wasn't common funerary language. It wasn't metaphorical. It suggested something physical, something living. Archaeologists still debate its meaning. Was it an empty threat, a warning to the living? Or was it describing something placed beneath the stone, something that didn't die? Some believe the tablet wasn't meant for robbers. It was meant for us. The River of Needles. In a Hellenistic tomb on the island of Rhodes, a sloping hallway ends in what appears to be a flooded passage. But it's not water. It's a layer of thin reeds set into a channel and tipped with bronze needles. Each finer than a pin, but barbed. Anyone attempting to cross, barefoot or even in sandals, would suffer dozens of punctures. But the true cruelty lay in their design. The barbs pointed backward, preventing clean removal. Each step embedded the metal deeper. Infection was all but certain. There was no sign of treasure beyond the reed channel, only a narrow stairway, leading into a sealed chamber. Empty. Perhaps the treasure wasn't what lay beyond, but who dared to cross it? The door that closed behind you. In the hills of Mycenae, a tomb was carved with a door so precise, even modern archaeologists struggled to find its seams. Inside, cool air, intact space. But when two early explorers stepped past the threshold, they heard a soft thud. Turning, they found no exit. The stone door had slid shut, not by magic, by weight. Counterweights hidden in the walls had shifted, locking the door with the force of a siege stone. No pushing could open it. The pair was found days later by a rescue team. One alive, one not. Their water had run out. They had scratched words into the wall. The dead are jealous. The wall that hunts you. Near Memphis, Egypt, an unassuming tomb holds a passage only 90 centimeters wide, perfectly smooth on all sides. It seemed designed just to narrow the path. But researchers noticed strange markings, drag lines, scratches, even nail marks. A French team proposed a radical theory that the floor itself was a trigger. Step on the wrong pressure point and the walls would begin to move. Not fast enough to crush, but fast enough to notice and to panic. No evidence of gears was found. The motion likely came from counterweights, massive stones hanging by rope. Once shifted, gravity would pull the corridor closed. No tomb robber would escape, without abandoning his plunder. But this was not the only way the ancients used pressure to kill. The slab that breathed flame. In a Macedonian tomb believed to belong to a royal general, a stone slab was found blackened with soot, unusual for a burial chamber. Beneath it, a cavity filled with pitch, sulfur, and ancient bronze piping. When stepped upon, the slab tilted slightly, dropping a stone weight into a chamber where it struck flint against metal. The spark ignited vapors from the pitch well, releasing a burst of flame. Not at the feet, but at chest height, aimed at anyone kneeling to inspect the coffin. Whether this was used in battle or burial is debated, but the mechanism was no accident. Someone designed it. Not to scare, but to burn. The eyes that watch. In a ruined tomb in the Libyan desert, archaeologists found a chamber ringed with small alcoves. Each contained a carved figure. They resembled household gods, harmless at first. But as the team moved deeper inside, they noticed something disturbing. The statue's eyes always pointed toward the entrance, and when moved, they clicked. These were not simple carvings. Inside each head was a pebble, rolling inside a groove. If a statue was disturbed, if someone moved too quickly or knocked one from its niche, it would fall. Somewhere unseen, the fall triggered a weight. Moments later, the chamber behind sealed shut. Only one exit remained, a narrow vertical shaft, 6 meters of rock. Climbable, if your hands weren't trembling, and your lungs weren't failing from the dust that now filled the room. Not every trap pierced skin. Some simply waited and listened. The blood-locked door. Beneath ancient Ephesus, a crypt contained a strange mechanism. A rotating stone wheel marked with symbols, scorpions, dogs, vultures. No keyhole, no latch. But along the lower rim, smeared across the stone, was a dark brown-black residue. Initial reports dismissed it as paint. Later tests revealed it was blood. Old, but human. After further study, a theory emerged. The door was pressure-locked from within, but it could be opened through capillary channels, tiny grooves in the stone designed to accept liquid. As the liquid entered, it expanded clay seals hidden inside the wall. In short, the door opened only when fed blood. Was it symbolic, ritualistic, or real? The mechanism no longer functions, but the grooves remain. So do the stains. The most horrible traps used in ancient tombs. It wasn't one trap that terrified the ancients. It was the idea that any tomb might hold one. Because unlike the calculated warfare of generals, tomb traps were crafted by priests, architects, and sorcerers. They didn't need to kill in battle. They needed to outlive the looter, to make death feel earned. In one unforgettable case, a tomb on the Nile's west bank was found sealed by a sandstone slab. Carved into it were just 4 symbols: a mouth, a blade, a serpent, and a twisted rope. The team hesitated. They had seen symbols before: threats, curses, warnings, but these were different. The carving wasn't a spell, it was a diagram. When the stone was finally lifted, the corridor beyond was clean. Too clean. No dust, no insects, not even a hint of decay. But halfway down the hall, an archaeologist's foot caught on something unseen. A cord snapped. The sound of a blade followed. A single scream. When the team reached him, he was already gone. A fine thread of copper wire had whipped across the corridor, sharp as glass, invisible in the dark. The blade had swung from above, using the same momentum seen in pendulum traps. Only this one left no mark on the walls. It was designed to strike once, never twice.